Make no mistake, cars are getting more expensive. In fact, my parents, who've just traded in a T-Roc for an ID3, were able to buy a 1.5 R-Line for less than the price of this car, which is a 1 litre TSI R-Line. Anyway, this car is about €38,000. It's the facelifted version of the T-Roc, which means it gets a slightly different nose, slightly different interior. We'll take a look around at the car. I'll give you a little point of view tour around the insides and what everything is like. We'll check out the boot and we'll take it for a quick spin. And if you're wondering, could this be your next mid-size crossover Volkswagen, then you're in the right place. Welcome to Not Beyond Cars. Little bit of a walk around tour of the car right now. So you'll notice that the front of the T-Roc looks a little bit different now. Some models had LED fog lights down in the lower part of the car, and the LED strips are now integrated into the headlights. It is a little bit of a different grille also. Obviously this is an R model, but the front reads ever so slightly differently. Can't say there's much of a difference obviously in the side profile of the car. You get your roof rails, but they would have been on it already. They're the 17-inch alloys that come on the R-Line model. The standard is 16. I'll tell you about this colour a little bit later on in the video if you're curious. It's a no extra charge colour in the T-Roc. Personally, I'm not a massive fan, but a lot of people this week have said to me, "Ooh, I like that colour." And we move around to the back of the vehicle. Some ever so subtle differences again at the back. Nothing that would alienate an existing T-Roc customer, however. That's probably important to them. So down below we still have 4 kind of looking exhausts. The reversing camera is still on the back of the car, on the Volkswagen badge. That chooses when to come on by itself. There's a bit of chrome going on here and a decent size boot spoiler. Here's the badge, doubles up. This is your boot. It is a good size, comparable to what you'd expect in a Golf, etc, etc. Down here, have we got a spare wheel? Oh, let's have a look. No, but there is space for one. Right, so you get the foam, you get a toolkit. I'm almost surprised to see that. And there's a compressor for air. Just what you want at the side of a road. It does have the little grabby bits, however, for holding this up. Like that. I like that touch. Just makes life a bit easier if you are at the side of the road going, "Where's my spare wheel? But at least I can hold up my boot shelf thing." If you got kids and you're wondering, will they fit into your T-Roc or should you disown them? Well, there is room for 2. Of course there is. Actually a little bit of room for 3, really. There is a significant hump in the floor here. The kids will love to kick the backs of the seats. Oh yeah, no airbrushing in these reviews. So obviously you can wipe that. And getting into the back of the car. There's lots of nice room underneath for your feet. That's a lovely touch. And similar here, a little bit tight in terms of leg room. My seat isn't all the way back either, but it is doable. The new models now have USB-C and 2 little air vents. If you haven't one with the optional glass roof that comes nicely in. And is there access to the secret compartment, as my kids call it? Yes, there is. You can access the boot like so. Jumping into the front of the T-Roc. Okay, so first thing that is new is this. So this floating screen is now here. It was more integrated into the actual dashboard. And down here, climate control is what you'll find in something like the Arteon. The jog wheels are now gone. That's one of the main differences. Still space to store sunglasses and cup holders. You've got the sliding armrest. Can I just take a moment to really compliment these R-Line seats? There is just fantastic. These are like really, really thick, solid seats, extremely comfortable, and like the bolsters on them, just really good quality seats. I'm very impressed. All models of the car now get a digital cockpit. That's from the bottom Life Edition up. The haptic buttons are back. So if you like these or hate them, they kind of click when you press on them. They do the job, but some people just aren't quite sure. Something else that is new is this engine start button. That fires up your ignition. You can have your maps actually in the center display here also, and that's a better idea of what the aircon looks like when you stick it on to climate control mode. Do not let a 1 litre TSI engine put you off. It's 110 brake horsepower. Yes, the 1.5 is more potent. You know, it's always going to be. It's 150 brake horsepower. But there's actually enough, whatever way they've managed to sort the torque figure, and it's not massive by any stretch, but it just works. It's quite a pokey little car, and I know someone has this exact engine in a Skoda Octavia, and they've gone down from a diesel one, and again, same story. They were like, God, there's actually plenty of power in the car. There's no issue at all. It would be nice to see, let's say, blind spot in the facelifted version of the car, because it has things like frontal collision avoidance, and obviously the upgraded digital cockpit adds a nice level of classiness to the interior, and something that you wouldn't have always got across all models, so that's good. Manual 6-speed gearbox. If you go for DSG, it's 7. It's great, nice smooth gearbox. It'll do what it says in the tin in terms of fuel economy, so it's about 6 to 7 litres per 100 kilometers. That's generally where it sits, but that said, you will get it into the 5s on longer runs. This version also, remember, there's no optional extras on this car. Everything you get is standard. So you've got radar guided cruise control. That's a standard on the car. Ascot Grey is the colour. It's a solid paint colour, and it's a no cost extra, so get it if you like it. It doesn't really have a grey look to it, it's more like a cream. Also, the fact that the car has a sunroof, light is flooded in. It's very generous as sunroofs go. It goes nicely into the back of the vehicle. Done a fair bit of mileage in the car this week, and I have to say the T-Roc is one of the best handling crossovers I have been behind the wheel of. There's very little that you can throw at this car that it doesn't manage to cope with in terms of handling. If you give it a good bit of accelerator into bends, it copes with it, no problem. And I never got to drive the actual R version of the T-Roc with the Golf R engine in it, but having sat behind the wheel of this, having, you know, given, alright, it's a 1 litre engine, but having given it plenty of beans into corners, I'm like, wow, this is really capable. Add on to the fact then that the R version would be 4-wheel drive. It's actually a really fun car and very engaging to be behind the wheel of. The driving characteristics really of the T-Roc are one of the most impressive out of the whole thing, and I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, wow, this thing actually handles. Because everyone is so obsessed with crossovers and SUVs, maybe the way of getting something like a GTI badge to live on is by putting it onto a car like this. I can't believe I just said that. Anyway, my thoughts on summing up the facelifted version of Volkswagen's T-Roc. Here we go. T-Roc. It's a good solution. If you're in this segment of vehicle, you've got to consider things like the Skoda Karoq, of course, because that's just really fantastic at what it does, but it's from the same stable of family. It's still a good looking car. I actually like how it drives. It handles very well. So if you don't need the biggest boot in the world, if you've got 2 kids or maybe they're grown up and you don't need that, and it's not quite the height of something like a Qashqai, but you don't want to be totally on the floor either, it's a good compromise. But it's now a good time to have a look at the T-Roc, because facelift versions get loads of stuff as standard. So now is actually a great time to buy. I hope I've helped you narrow this car down or ruled it in or out of your next purchase. And if you've got any comments or questions, please leave them down below. I'll see you on the next one.